Hey, BitBoy, can you hear me?
I can. Yeah, I can hear you great. Okay, so I want to say
Awesome.
this. Yeah, I want to say this as we're bringing. Can Drew come and clip me, by the way, or Johnny, one of
Yeah,
them?
sure.
Yeah. First and foremost, I want to say, Simon. I've never said anything bad about you on this channel. And I've had you on a couple times, but I had some questions. Like, what are your motivations? What's your plan? The right? Because there were a lot of people putting stuff back and forth in my ears. I get a lot of that, a lot of information given to me. And I want to say that I really apologize to you for not supporting you more because I now know you've been a good guy in this the entire time. And it doesn't matter. Some people would say, oh, Simon's doing this for money. Well, we're all trying to pursue some level of personal interest. Like I would say my personal interest is actually more on behalf of my audience than my personal because it's all tied together in one thing. But it doesn't matter. He put out the best plan. Simon had the best plan that took Celsius holders into consideration. So I apologize for not supporting that plan more. It took me a while to figure out really what I believed, where you were standing. So we're in full support of you now. And we're going to be, Drew King, come clip me. And we will be, talking to you more, having you on the channel more. And you and I are going to do this together, along with some other players that are in this game. And so I just wanted to start off the show by saying that Simon's got my full support now, 100%. I was just kind of in the middle a little bit. So wanted to say that. So let's get into it, Simon. Where do we stand right now with what's going on with Celsius?
Yeah, well, let me respond to that. So firstly, we're at the crunch point right now. So this is a key moment in the case. And what happens in this case is going to define all the other bankruptcy cases. So this is certainly an industry of what is the future of these centralized companies. And so on the whole back and forth with me, look, I'm the 21st largest creditor, but I was also one of the largest shareholders in Celsius. So, we raised our shareholding at Bank to the Future that I'm the CEO of was worth 170 million at the last funding round. But I also had a balance. Now, I just found out this weekend that another 300 Bitcoin was pulled out of my account on the day of the pause. So that now makes me the top 10 creditor.
Wow.
And I'm getting a whole load of shit because I didn't even notice that 300 Bitcoin were missing from my account. But that's how on this that I've been for the last 8 months, eating, shitting, breathing, trying to get the best result for creditors at the moment. And so the conflict of interest that through people, and we're in a skeptical, when you've been rugged by Alex Majinski and Celsius, you're going to have skepticism about everyone. But I've been here throughout the whole process, aligning my interests. If I make my money back, then everyone else will make their money back.
Right.
And I was forced into the bidding process because I submitted a plan and gave it to Alex Majinski before they filed for Chapter 11. That plan, if implemented, was based upon doing this for Bitfinex in 2016 already. And so we had that plan. It wasn't implemented because there was all sorts of fraud to hide. So I was forced into the bidding process and I offered up Bank to the Future to put together a plan. And what I wanted to do is set up what's called a stalking horse. And a stalking horse means you set the framework for how this is done in order to optimize the result for creditors. And then other people up the bid. Now, what I decided to do is, well, actually, the decision was made for me because they went from having a stalking horse process to switching to a sponsor whereby one company that is also a client of White & Case, as well as being the UCC, a client of White & Case, it was all put together whereby they just get a monopoly on a sponsorship plan. So it took out all the competitive tension, everything that I've been working towards. And the reason people were skeptical about me is because I put Bank to the Future in the mix, which is the company that I'm the CEO of. Now Bank to the Future is out of the equation. We've just taken it out. It's better to just put this stalking horse set up, take Bank to the Future out of the equation, and I can just support creditors as a creditor. And I'm just a normal Joe Schmo that's the 10th largest creditor in Celsius rather than having that conflict. So hopefully we're all now aligned and we don't need to worry about, but the fact of the matter is, if Nova Wolf ends up bidding on this process and we can align our interests in the way that I designed, then I want Nova Wolf to make as much money as possible, because that
Mm-hmm.
means we will make as much money as possible. That's what I tried to do with Bank to the Future. We failed, but Bank to the Future is out of the equation. But now we get back to, what have we got to do for creditors? And that's where I think we should spend our time now.
Yeah, I think absolutely, and I think the stalking horse is a great idea. And I do believe so. My kind of clarity that I've had through, look, people think that I just go and I kick down people's doors and I just go there for clicks. The information I learned by going to Nova Wolf was so beneficial to helping bring clarity to what we need to do as a community that it was unbelievable. Yeah, it started out like really aggressive and it turned into like, which, there's only so much of it we'll be able to show on camera. Of course, none of the White and K stuff we'll be able to show. But look at the difference between how these two companies operate. One of them, they did try to keep me out at first, but then they let me inside and they let me talk to one of the co-founders on the phone with no cameras around. Awesome information for 30 minutes. Then you look at White and Case, they kick me out before I even get in the door. It shows you who's trying to hide and who's trying to clarify the truth. And my clarity from this is that UCC is where we really need to put the pressure, because they control the votes to determine the retail clawbacks. And I'm not sure, there's also the other issue, Simon, I'm sure you're aware of, which is the valuation of the sell token at 20 cents as opposed to, I guess, the 81 cents, or where it's trading at now, 50 cents. Because people are getting a haircut probably on the amount that they have, and then they're getting a haircut also on the price. So it's kind of sketchy what they're doing there as well. But
and a third haircut on the tax.
And a third haircut on the tax, right. So very sketchy stuff there as well. And I've also discovered that there's a group of people like me where we got loans liquidated because we couldn't move our own assets around on the platform, and they want us to send more money in, like a bunch of crazies. Told them I wouldn't do that under any circumstance, so we got liquidated. There's also a group that may need to be formed because you have the custody group, you have the clawback group, you have several different groups involved in this. But I think that for the most part, UCC has votes to control all of this, because here's what we want, Simon. This is where I want to talk, and I want us to kind of come to some basic understandings of next points and next points of action. I think we all believe that in reality, the reorganization is probably the best route, because the reorganization also gives us the ability to create the stalking horse and have other people come in and try to maybe best the reorg plan. So it's very important the reorganization plan comes out correct. If it doesn't and this whole thing fails and it goes to chapter 7, then we're all in trouble, right? So the best way to do this is to get the plan tweaked to where it has the things that most of the people want in it, and then let people compete and bid over making that plan better, right? I think that's generally what we want. From today, February 27th, how do we get there? What are dates to watch for, and what are things people should be getting prepared to do to fight?
Yeah, okay. So let me cover the sell token side, and then I'll go through the steps as well. The irony of this whole situation is that I knew really early, because I've been dealing with crypto regulations for over a decade now. I knew really early that the SEC was not going to let sell token come back alive. So I was the very first person to say sell token is no more, and that caused a lot of controversy. So all the people that were messaging you were people that hated me because they thought Celsius 2.0 was coming and the sell token was coming. But within my plan, I set the framework that Nova Wolf is using right now. White and Case used it as training for all the new people that are joining this case, but they took Bank to the Future out of the equation and made it a monopoly. Right, so back to the sell token. I gave everyone the price of the bankruptcy because I knew that you have to have fairness, and I knew the SEC would object to this. The SEC is now tearing down Voyager. They've gone from getting 72% with SBF's fake FTX bid in order to unwind all his fraud, down to 50% with Binance, down to approximately 20% because FTX is now clawing back a bunch of money from Voyager. And the SEC is objecting, saying you're not treating everyone equal, and no, this is an unregistered security, therefore you're not going to get this done. So I wanted to prevent all of that in the Celsius case. Unfortunately, they didn't do that in Voyager, and they're experiencing it right now. Here's the irony of the whole situation and why I hope we can turn a new chapter. Everybody that thought I was out to screw cell token holders, they got a 4x better offer on my plan, and they ended up getting 20 cents, under this new plan. And so now everyone's realizing, they're coming out and saying, oh, right, this is fraud. They're now saying that Celsius is fraud. Now they know Celsius 2.0 is happening. So look, a load of people hate me. A load of people hate you. We've all got to come together as a team.
Excuse me, Simon. No one hates me. I've never had a single negative comment towards me in my life.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So I'm working with the people that I never imagined that I would ever work for, that have given me shit for 8 months. But that's what we've got to do, because this is important. So now that brings us to, what do we need to do next? Right. BitBoy, you started the campaign, you started the rampage, bringing attention to some of the real evil things that could happen in this plan. So I've put it down to 3 simple things, and here's why this is important. You may not be an accreditor at Celsius, but what happens in the Voyager case affects the Celsius case, that affects the BlockFi case, that affects the FTX case, and that affects the regulated, reborn companies, into the future, which also sets the framework for what comes next in the DeFi space. So this certainly is an issue that everyone needs to pay attention to, because we have the opportunity to set the right process for what happens when a centralized exchange goes into financial difficulty. Right now, we know exactly what happens when a bank goes bust. We know what happens when a broker goes bust. And now we're going to find out what happens when a centralized crypto platform goes bust. And that's really important. So there's 3 fundamental things. The first thing, clawbacks. Destroy the industry, destroy innocent people. There are a bunch of people that listened to the warning signs and got their money out of Celsius, as you know.
There were plenty of them. We should have done it ourselves. I mean, there were warning signs everywhere for even when I went on to the Celsius live stream with Alex one day, like a couple weeks before this happened. Like, I even noticed, like, some of his language, it just didn't really line up with what he was saying, what he had said before. Now, I didn't raise alarm bells on it. Why? Because I just thought they're too big to fail. I kind of thought, like, even though, like, his tone had changed a little bit, there were tons of rumors out there. Like, I just personally felt like an idiot looking back, just like people thought with FTX, it was too big to fail. There were signs everywhere. People were tweeting about this for 2 months before it happened.
Yeah. And as a slight tangent, and I'll get back to the 3 things. But Alex, I'll see you in criminal court. There was one account on this case where on the day of the pause, 289 Bitcoin worth $8.8 million was rugged out of the account, and that was my account. Now, the irony of this situation is that is the criminal court that we need to get Alex Mashinsky's wealth and return it back to creditors, because there are good clawbacks, and that is insider clawbacks. Mashinsky went on every channel saying that this is safer than a bank, you don't need to worry, and he stopped people from pulling money out of the platform because while he was pulling his money out of the platform. That is insider clawbacks. He knew that the company was insolvent since 2021, and he hid that by marking his token to market using $580 million of RETH and Bitcoin in order to pump his sell token position so that he could exit it. And that is something that he will have to pay for, and his unjust enrichment does need to be clawed back and given right back to creditors. So that's the type of clawback. There are different types of clawback.
And I will tell you, Simon, real quick. I will tell you that, as I'm going to Washington this week, these are some conversations I'm going to be having with some of the politicians we're going to be meeting with. I want them to understand really the depth of what's going on. We actually have another entity that we're looking at that could potentially collapse. It won't affect most people in crypto. It's not necessarily on a retail level, but we're starting to investigate another big company that might have some of the same stuff. We don't have enough evidence to really nail it down yet. We'll be talking to him about that. I'm also going to be talking to him in depth about what happened at Celsius, what's going on with Alex Mashinsky, why are there not criminal charges yet, discussing these clawbacks, how they're being used. Like, you're 100% right, Simon. Some of these clawbacks are perfect. Insider clawbacks need to happen. If you knew and you pulled your money off, not because you knew because you saw rumors, but if you had inside information showing proof, you need to have the money come back. Alex Mashinsky needs to have money coming back onto the exchange. If they would actually pursue that money, that would probably end up being almost the same amount of money that they're going to actually profit from the clawbacks, from the retail clawbacks. And the retail clawbacks are going to take years and years and years. This isn't going to be a quick process.
Yeah. So the three things we need to do from here. The first one is we need to distinguish what clawbacks are good and right and what clawbacks are bad. Bankrupting people in dollar terms when the market has corrected since then, for people that manage to get their savings out because they listen to the warning signs, is unethical. It's immoral. I have zero exposure to it myself, but it's not good for the industry. And that is part of this reorganization plan that needs to be completely tweaked. And that's the part, the crusade that you've been on. And it is White and Case that has put that in the liquidation trust. And the UCC do have the power to change that if they accept their leadership. We managed to get the UCC to change certain things. And I think it's important to say, I know you're going to be doing a lot of stuff on the UCC. They are creditors and they have their advisors. They need to stand up to their advisors, but they do control a lot of this process. Their information is already, published out there. But I do believe that they are just creditors, just like us. And they need guidance on what we want. And we're going to have to apply that pressure to make sure it happens. Right. So clawbacks, get that right. Innocent people should not be screwed because they managed to get their lifetime savings after they were misrepresented and defrauded as what outlined in a 600-page examiner report. Right. That's clawbacks. The second thing that's happening here is they have figured out a way to use the bankruptcy code and the bankruptcy law in order to cram down whatever shit they give us by giving a bribe to those people that have less than $5,000 on their account. These cram downs are a deliberate strategy in order to inflict a plan upon people. If you cannot take what I've already given, the framework of how I know to get creditors the best results, and we don't have to do it. I gave it to them to do it with somebody else. They took 7 of the bad things, the best things that make it work, took them out of the plan. And I created a video on that on my YouTube channel on Simon Dixon if anyone wants to go geeky into all this stuff. I don't want to go that in depth, but cram downs is an absolute failure. If they have to use cram downs in order to cram down a plan on us, then the UCC have failed and they need to put together a better plan. We already have that framework that can be done. Then the third thing, and then we can give some deadlines on what comes next. Implement the stalking horse setup. Our bid was a stalking horse bid. That's a terminology in the bankruptcy code, which means put together the ideal framework that maximizes the result for creditors and then open it up to the competitive market so someone can say, well, we can do this mining part of the business and much, much better and get a better result for creditors. We can take on all those lenders and there's companies that are willing to do that. We can put together a more liquid security token exchange. You don't have to be in a complete startup blockchain. And then everybody can upbid and the best result wins. That's the 3 things that we need to have from here. And if we don't get those in the next few weeks, we are going to be crammed down, clawed back, and given a plan that was just introduced by a sponsor that has all sorts of conflicts of interest because the UCC is hiring the same law firm that represents all of the companies that is involved in putting together this plan in a monopolistic sponsorship style when it should be open up to competition.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I agree with all 3 of those points. You make a lot of great points about the clawbacks and how it's unethical. Like they're asking people to, even if you do get clawed back, you would actually have to return the amount at a much higher price when the price is lower, and that's insane. That's extremely unethical what they're doing. But I'll be honest with you, Simon, I think we're going to win. I don't think this is going to end up happening. So I don't want to get people tubed down in the garbage about it. But I mean, these are facts. If it did happen, that's why we have to apply the pressure. But personally, I'm already considering this a victory. I think we're going to be relentless with these people. They're going to have no choice if they ever want to have a life again. They're going to have to vote with the way the most people want, because they're our representation is what they are at the UCC. So all of these attorneys and all of these people on the UCC, if this goes the wrong way, your lives will be ruined. I promise you that. I will make sure for the rest of my days, I spend countless hours making sure that your lives will be absolutely miserable if you screw over thousands and thousands and thousands of people over billions of dollars. So that's number one. Number two here, let's talk about the important dates, because right now, like, we've told the three things we want to push for, but what are actionable steps, and what are like dates that we need to be looking for in order to turn this into, you know, a mob of angry people with pitchforks and lanterns into a machine that can get this done?
Yeah, absolutely. So on the 15th of February, just after Valentine's Day, the UCC said if Celsius does not release their reorganization plan after 8 months of messing around, then they will not allow them an extension. They released it at 1 a.m. on the 15th or 14th, or Valentine's Day. Everyone was out celebrating Valentine's Day. They released it at 1 a.m. on the 15th.
Oh, Simon, I have to stop you. Bitcoin's down. There's a much lower percentage of people than normal were able to celebrate Valentine's Day. Not a lot of girlfriends going around in crypto right now. I want to make that very important distinction. You know, thanks.
Yeah, right, the amount of time we're spending on Twitter Spaces as well means that relationships are suffering.
Exactly. Okay, so you can continue now.
Yeah. And so we gave them that deadline. Now, this is the uniqueness of this situation. I've been going live on Twitter Spaces each and every week throughout the whole last 8 months in order to keep people informed and congregate as a community. We've had this emotional roller coaster up and down, but we are now getting to that unified point. Oops, sorry, I've not got my notifications off. We're now getting to that unified point. We managed to put so much pressure onto the UCC, listening into our Twitter Spaces with Nova Wolf, with everyone from Celsius, so much pressure that they released that plan in the midnight, you know, and that now gives us this framework where we realized that it was actually very similar to my plan, but they took out 7 of the important points. But that's okay. Now, that led to them applying for an extension, and the judge said, no, we'll give you, because you just released it, we'll give you until everyone can object to it on the 1st of March, and there'll be a court hearing for that on the 8th of March. So if we can't get this plan where it's meant to go by the 1st of March, and tonight Nova Wolf are doing their first Twitter Spaces, then we are really, really cutting it tight, and then the judge can object to exclusivity, hand it over to a more competitive market, and we can get the stalking horse, no cram downs and lack of clawbacks, one way or the other. That's either going to be done by the UCC or it's going to be done by Celsius. So Celsius have complete control over the process until the UCC decides we're not going to extend exclusivity. Now they're going to apply for an extension until the 31st of March. And then it's going to take right up until June, July to execute this thing. We've only got one shot. So what we need is by the 31st of March, a stalking bid without clawbacks, just insider clawbacks and the right to find ones, and a plan that doesn't have to be crammed down just by bribing people off. We've got till the 31st of March to do that. And then if they do not do that, then we need to move over to someone else executing this plan and opening up to competition, because we need the stalking horse bid and then everyone to compete and improve on it so that we can release that money by August, have a great mining operation, you know, and have a recovery that gives everyone the maximum amount of coins that they can get back, and also a risk play so they can try and have a recovery.
Awesome. Well, that sounds great. I've jotted down some notes here from this so people understand what, you know, we're going to help people understand what needs to happen. It sounds like, if I'm reading all this correctly, that what we really need to be doing, unless something were to change and that March 31st date were to get rejected or sped up or something like that, that really when our power play needs to be is probably somewhere between the 8th and the 31st. That's when we need to put the most pressure, or do we need to do that? That's correct, right?
Yeah, Judge Clayton's going to highly likely extend exclusivity to the 31st of March. That's our time to get this plan right. Okay. If they don't release the right type of plan by 31st, we need to open it up. We need to get rid of that exclusivity. And so in that time, let's get this plan right. Let's set the framework. And remember, we are not just doing this for Celsius. We're doing this for BlockFi victims, for FTX victims, for all the others. And we need to set the framework of how a speedy recovery happens. People get their liquid crypto back. It's restructured as equity. Another company takes over. They compete in order to take over. And just like right now, when Lehman Brothers went bust, it was gobbled up by Nomura and Barclays. We need a similar type of process so that we can get on with using these centralized companies, knowing that whenever there is, hopefully everyone's using DeFi, and they own Bitcoin and they've learned how to store it on their cold wallet, but we still need the on and off ramps. We still need those centralized companies. And when they do fraud or they go through, or they go through distress, we know within a very reasonable time frame how to take those over to a better operator that's not going to commit fraud and implement sound policies that are better for their customers.
That's it. Now, I just want to real quick, I'm going to summarize. Well, actually, Simon, I'm going to let you go. We got to finish the show. We just got a few minutes to finish. We will bring you back on. Let's try to schedule him for the 9th, guys. Hopefully you'll be free on that day, on the 9th. We'll have you back on. You hear that, Drew? Okay. This will be the day after the 8th. This is when we will be able to give you guys a real action plan for what we want to do. I want to do protests. I want to organize protests all over the United States at White and Case. That's probably where we need to attack. I want to go to their driveways and protest. I know where Greg lives. I know where Keith lives. I want to go there. I want to go to their driveway and protest. It's public property right in the front of their houses. And I want people to really understand the pressure and the heat that's about to come on people left and right. These are these are legal protests, is what we want to do. So we're going to make sure that we have, what, you got to get something from the city to protest. What do they call that, TJ? Do you know?
What
do they call that?
Permit?
Yeah, permit. We're going to get permits to do it. We're going to do it all the right way. So that's something I'm really looking at doing. But Simon, we're going to have you back on the 9th. I'm going to tell everybody the kind of overview of what we just talked about once you get off. And, I'll be in touch with you. We talk privately a good bit. So thanks for coming on today. And let's get these guys.
All right. Keep it peaceful. Keep it legal. And we'll do this the right way. Cheers, BitBoy.
Absolutely. All right. Thanks. Bye. Simon knows me very well. That's why I had to say that at the end.